Hello, everyone. Welcome to Legal Matters. 1 year has elapsed from the Hammas terrorist attack in Israel, and today I have the pleasure to sit down with the ambassador of Israel to Cyprus, Mr. Oren Anolik, to reflect on the situation and discuss the current state of affairs in Gaza, Lebanon, and the Middle East. Ambassador, welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for accepting my invitation. How are you?
It's a complicated question. It's not as easy as you might think.
You were not kidnapped after all.
I was not kidnapped at all after all. But no, you chose an interesting point to start with. And I want to say two things in this regard.
Yes.
One thing is that I wish that things that I'm actually doing will get the same kind of attention as these fake news got.
Yes.
Most of my tweets get several thousand views. The one that I had to post to say that I'm okay, nothing has happened, got 370,000 views.
The short video that you posted?
The short video that I posted.
You were in Israel at
I was
the
in
time.
Israel at that time, and I was actually on my way to do some shopping in the grocery shop, and I had to stop out of the grocery shop and say, I need to do something to refute this. And I just stood there, I took my own selfie on video, I spoke whatever I had to speak, and I posted
How did this start? Do you know how?
We don't know for
started?
certain. We could track it back to some sort of a news channel in Lebanon that was the first one probably to air this, to post it. And he claimed it was on Reuters, which is probably false. But when you use the name of Reuters, it gives it some kind of credibility. And from there, it caught up like fire.
Yes. There isn't any real threat for you, for your life. I mean, I understand that there are security measures in place, but I mean, were you threatened in any way in the past? Did you have?
Being an Israeli ambassador abroad, I'm not talking about Cyprus specifically.
Generally.
Being an Israeli ambassador abroad means that you are a target.
Yes.
We have enemies. I'm talking very openly. It's about Iran and the Quds force of Iran and Hezbollah. They acted in the past against Israeli diplomats, and it's clear to us that they are trying to at least collect enough intelligence and information and have some sort of plans to repeat this again. So it is clear to me that there is a threat.
Yeah.
I cannot go into any details about how serious it is, how serious it is specifically in Cyprus, but our assumption is there is a threat.
On a personal level, how easy is how do you manage to live with this? I mean, with this thought on the back of your mind, you wake up, you go have lunch, dinner, you have personal time, I guess.
When one
do you get used to it?
Yes, with a slight no. I will try to explain. When one takes upon himself to be the Israeli ambassador, he knows two things for certain. One, he has no more privacy, and two, there are security concerns involved. So I've been here for 3 years. It's part of my life. I know that security is wherever I go, and I need to take into consideration. Do I enjoy it or like it? Not so much.
Yes.
The price you need to pay.
Yes.
And I'm paying it gladly because I feel that what I'm doing is important enough, meaningful enough, and it's just a price you have to pay for what you do.
Yes. So our previous podcast ambassador was on the 26th of October, 2023, a year ago. And can you tell us what is the situation on the ground today as we are recording this?
Yes, I will do it gladly, but I feel obliged to say one thing before that. And this, when you were asking me, I mean, people, when they think about October 7th, they think about the Hammas massacre, they think about how this started, they think about Gaza. But I must say that what we are seeing now is not just Israel and fighting Hamas in Gaza. There's a much broader picture, and I will gladly go into the situation on the ground in Gaza, but I just need to understand this is... We are in a war that we have more than 1, 2, or 3 fronts.
Yes.
We have
Lebanon,
Hammas in Gaza. We have Lebanon with Hezbollah. We have terrorists in Judea and Samaria and the West Bank that are being more and more active as well. And we had only last week, we had a terror attack in Jaffa where terrorists from Hebron in the West Bank came into Israel and killed 6 Israeli citizens. We have the Houthis in Yemen. We have the pro-Iranian militias in Iraq. Also, this week alone, the drone that they sent from Iraq killed 2 Israeli soldiers in Israel. And of course, we cannot forget we have Iran itself. Here in Cyprus, people took videos and images showing the skies over Israel during the attack on October 1st by Iran, 181 ballistic missiles. This is what we are seeing in front of us. This is the war that we actually are engaged in, and we believe we can win. Now, what is the situation on the ground? Let's start with Gaza. If you remember, in our previous broadcast, I spoke about the goals of the war. And the number one goal of the war was to eradicate Hamas capabilities. We spoke about military capabilities and governmental capabilities. We don't want Hamas to continue ruling Gaza and pose a threat to Israel. I must say that when you look at the military threat from Hamas, we made a lot of progress. We eliminated the vast majority of the Hamas leadership, including the field commanders. About half of the terrorists, of the fighters, are disabled, either dead or wounded. All of the major units, the brigades and the regiments, are dismantled. So it doesn't mean that they cannot do anything, but they are not the kind of a terror army that they used to be up until October 7th. Their capabilities of firing rockets was diminished as well. It's not zero, but it's much less than the way it was before. So you can say that on the military aspect of the goal, we are quite successful. Could
you give percentages, like 80% successful in eliminating Hamas military capability, 70%?
Since there are different dimensions to this, it's very hard to take it into one number. But as I said before, it's like 50% of the fighters, it's like all of their brigades, it's like, I think, 80 or 85% of their commanders. So it's
substantial.
It's substantial. When it comes to the governmental capabilities, I cannot show a similar level of success. Hamas has not yet lost totally its grip over the population in Gaza. By the way, what Hamas is doing is trying to silence any kind of criticism coming from Palestinians in Gaza itself, including, by the way, fabricating different opinion polls that were held that show that majority of people in Gaza, more than half of people in Gaza, blame Hamas for the situation.
Really?
Blame the attack that Hamas committed in October 7th as the main reason to why they are in the situation they are. They don't like us. They still say Israel is horrible.
Yes. Okay.
But they understand that what brought this upon them is Hamas actions. Otherwise, Israel would not have been today where it is in Gaza. So going back to the governmental capabilities, there is some progress that was done there as well, but Hamas still has a very important tool because he is controlling most of the aid flowing into Gaza. So they are looting some of the trucks, they are using it for their own needs, they are selling it in the black market to those poor people that were supposed to receive it. We are aware of this, and we are now looking into different steps that we want to take away from Hamas this control over the distribution and the control over the aid, which we hope will bring down its capability to control the population. I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture here. It's not that, a new Jeffersonian liberal democracy is going to erupt in Gaza tomorrow. This is not where we are. But it's not standstill. It's not like, nothing has happened. What have you achieved so far? There are achievements, and I believe that eventually we will be able to achieve all of the goals of this war, including, which is very important for us, of course, is the release of all the hostages.
Yes. This would be my second question. What is the status with the hostages? How many are still under captivity? 110, I think.
101. 101. We started with 251 hostages. We are now down to 101. Our estimation is that about half of them are still alive, and we know that the other half are dead. There are still children, There are still women, there are still elderly people there among those hostages. We had a horrible incident about a month ago when 6 of the hostages were cold-bloodedly executed in one of the tunnels when the Hammas terrorists that were guarding them were afraid that the IDF is closing up on them, and they decided just to kill them there and leave, which is for us is a.
Do you have an indication where they are held? They are in the Gaza area, or?
Yeah, as far as we know, they are all in the Gaza Strip. We have
Yes.
no indication that any one of them was taken out of the Gaza
Outside.
Strip anywhere. That's what we know. I don't know exactly what intelligence we have. I don't know. Nobody would share this with me if we know exactly where they are or not. I can say, though, that there are some indications, and that whenever the IDF is making any kind of an action, this is being taken into consideration. We are trying to do our best not to endanger the lives of those hostages. So it is being taken into consideration, but not always we have the exact intelligence or the information.
Yes. And what about Lebanon?
In Lebanon, I think that I would say the amazing situation is that Hezbollah a month ago, not the same organization.
Yes.
That there was a serious degrading of Hezbollah's capabilities. First of all, in its leadership, I think that almost not even a single person from the military command of Hezbollah is alive today. They were all eliminated, including Hassan Nasrallah himself, including his. It seems including also his successor.
His successor was also killed.
That's a current estimation at the moment.
Not clear from the
Yes,
reports.
I know it's not yet finalized, but the indications that we have seem to be to point in this direction. That he was eliminated as well, and many of their capabilities were taken away from them, and we can see it's not that they cannot fire rockets; they fire rockets, but in comparison to the capabilities they had and the assessment that we had about what they can do, this is way beneath what they were planning to do beforehand.
Yes. So the plan is...
One more thing, thousands of the operatives were eliminated as well, either dead or wounded. So they are in a bit of a disarray right now.
Yeah.
It's unclear who is making decisions. It's unclear who is deciding what to do right now and what orders to give. They are in disarray, which opens a window for a change in Lebanon. It opens an opportunity for Lebanese people that for too many years were afraid of Hezbollah and what would happen if they speak against Hezbollah. And now they might have a new way to design their own future.
Yeah, you think so? You think that's possible? Anyway, I don't know.
Yes, I do think so. Why are you doubtful about it?
Because I'm not certain if Hezbollah can be eliminated altogether. I mean, they will find a way to return.
There's a misunderstanding here. I need to explain this. It's not a question if you can eliminate altogether Hezbollah. The thought of completely eliminating an organization is wrong. Nobody is taking away the fact that Hezbollah is also a Lebanese organization of the Shiite community. It's not the issue of is it eliminated completely. It's the issue as to what extent are they going to continue to be an Iranian proxy, which is an important one, which has different interests than Lebanese interests. And we are where we are because it was being an Iranian proxy that brought Hezbollah to a decision to attack Israel on October 8th. Hezbollah started these attacks because he wanted to show support to Hammas and he wanted to try to exhaust Israel. And we warned them. We told them to stop it.
Yes.
And when they didn't stop it, and they didn't do it for Lebanese interest. This is the thing.
Yes.
This was not a Lebanese interest. They paid the price for doing something as the Iranian proxy. So this is the option. If they return to have only one hat as a representative, political representative of the Shiite community, Okay, they are part of Lebanon. What's taking it away? But they are part that they can
Yes.
play a role with the other elements and not terrorize the other elements.
About the retaliation to Iran, everybody in the world is expecting how Israel will retaliate to the October the 1st bombings. Is there a chance that Israel may change its mind and do nothing?
I sincerely doubt it. This was the second time that Iran chose to rain ballistic missiles on Israel. The first time was on April 14th. This one was October 1st. Almost 200 ballistic missiles were fired into Israel. This is a declaration of war. If you take this step, you need to understand that this cannot go by and say, oh, nothing has happened. Something has happened. Serious something has happened. I don't know what is going to be Israel's response. I don't know where. I don't know when. But I feel quite confident to say there will be an Israeli response to this attack.
Yes. But you cannot say when and where.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, Ambassador, everybody tries to understand what is the end game here. I mean, what is the plan of Israel? How will this end, if it will ever end?
What is the it that's supposed to end? The whole Middle East future? The war in Gaza?
No, I mean the war. I mean, are you going to continuously fight?
This is not our intent. We don't want to keep on fighting forever. This is not our intention.
Yes.
It makes zero sense for Israel to be engaged in a
But there
everlasting
have
war.
been opportunities for a ceasefire, for diplomacy to work. And I won't say whose fault it is, but all sides, or your side or the other side, said no. And people are still fighting, children are killed, people are killed. So is there going to be an end to this?
Okay. First of all, I wholeheartedly believe there will be an end. There is a big difference, though, between speaking about a ceasefire and finding a diplomatic solution. These are not the same
Yes, I
thing.
understand this. I understand.
Israel is not interested in a ceasefire because a ceasefire freezes the current situation. The current situation is not attainable. It cannot be the situation that in Gaza, Hamas will continue to rule, and it cannot be the situation that in Lebanon, Hezbollah will continue to have its commandos on the border with Israel, preparing for an attack the same way that Hamas did on October 7th. This cannot be happening.
Yes.
So therefore, a ceasefire in this sense, which is freezing the situation, is not something that Israel in any way is going to agree with. This is different than a diplomatic solution. For Gaza, a diplomatic solution has to be one that eventually will mean that there's another leadership in Gaza, which is not Hamas. Leadership that does not believe in death and does not think that the most important thing is attacking Israel, but the most important thing is actually helping the Palestinian people themselves. And in Lebanon, the diplomatic solution needs to be based on the current existing Security Council resolutions 1559 and 1701 that speak about the disarming of all the militias in Lebanon, which means that it's the Lebanese army that is the only one that has the monopoly over the use of weapons. And it means that Hezbollah is being taken away from the border across the Litani River, so it cannot pose a direct and immediate threat to Israel.
Yes.
These are the parameters, the contours of this diplomatic solution.
You know, of course, that the counter argument to this is that we have illegal occupation in Gaza by Israel, which has, and the West Bank. The United Nations has repeatedly condemned the settlement, the Israeli settlements. It has condemned the occupation. Of Security Council Resolution 2334 of 2016, which states that Israeli settlement activities in the occupied Palestinian territories, including East Jerusalem, have no legal validity and constitute a flagrant violation of international law. As you know, this UN Security Council resolution was taken by 14 votes in favor and 1 abstention. So we have international law, which is very clear, and we have Israel, on the other hand, ignoring the international community and doing nothing about it. So what are you saying to this?
Okay. I will answer.
About the illegal occupation and the settlers and all this.
First of all, I don't find it as a counter argument to what I said before. There is, I believe there is a confusion between what happened in Gaza vis-a-vis Hamas and what happened in the West Bank, and they're trying to mix them together, muddies the water. We also discussed it last time as well. On the Palestinian side, there are two very different kind of parties or elements. Hamas was controlling Gaza, and the Palestinian Authority was controlling the West Bank. These two, even though they belong to the Palestinian people, do not have similar goals, similar ideology, similar thoughts about anything. Between them, as you know, when Hamas took over Gaza, they were killing Palestinians for the Palestinian Authority. So trying to describe this as just one big Palestinian element, this is wrong. Now, in Gaza, as you know very well, there was no occupation. Israel left Gaza in 2005. There was not a single...
That is not what the international community says. The international community has repeatedly said that there is occupation in Gaza, that it is an open prison. The International Court of Justice has given an advisory opinion in 2014, UN resolutions, etc. So the only one that says that there was no occupation in Gaza are the Israelis and the United States to some extent.
I understand this is legal matters. I understand this is a legal discussion, but I will try to go back to the legal aspect of this. I want to say something about the real situation on the ground in Gaza.
Yes.
No Israeli soldier in Gaza, no settlement in Gaza, no settlers in Gaza, nothing.
Yes, but you control the water, the electricity, you cut off the supplies, and this has been documented by the United Nations and so forth.
What you just said is the opposite of the truth.
Is it?
We didn't control the electricity and the water. We supplied electricity and water to Gaza to make sure people would have electricity and water. You know, when Hamas attacked us on October 7th, they caused the cutting off of most of the electricity cables into Gaza and most of water supply into Gaza. We fixed it. We resupplied Gaza and with electricity and water. So this is the opposite of the truth, what you just said. But let me go back to what you said. I need to remind one more thing. Gaza also has a border with Egypt, not just with Israel.
Yes.
Okay. So
correct.
Putting all the blame on Israel and saying this is still a legal situation of occupation, I think that the reality on the ground says something a bit different. What we did do, we did put a naval blockade on Gaza. Why? Because we understood that if ships going to go into Gaza, we know exactly what they're going to bring, and we saw the results, and we saw what was the outcome. So this we did do. Calling Gaza open prison, I find this propaganda. It's not reality on the ground. It doesn't mean that life in Gaza were wonderful.
So the Palestinians were free to come and go. I mean, they had to go through checks, through control.
Checks with Egypt, not just with us.
Yes.
For us, just to explain the situation, we still allowed, even though Gaza was controlled by a terrorist organization, which his ideology is to destroy Israel. We still allowed Palestinians from Gaza to come into Israel to work, so they will have money. We still allowed money to go into Gaza, so Hamas will be able to take care of its own people. We still allowed Palestinian patients to go into Israel to get medical assistance. This is the reality. So, one thing about occupation. Again, I'm going into an area which is more tricky because I'm not a lawyer.
Yes, Ambassador, but let me interrupt you for a minute.
So you wanted answers.
We'll give you all the time to respond, but we need to put some things on the table that guide our discussion, and we cannot discuss about this in abstracto. We have international law. I mean, we have the same problem here in Cyprus. We are under occupation from Turkey. There are security resolutions condemning the invasion and everything. And Turkey says it was a humanitarian mission in Cyprus in 1974. For them, sending 200,000 people out of their homes and occupying 45% of Cyprus is a humanitarian mission. That's what Turkey says. Now we have Israel saying what you just told me. And on the other hand, we have the decisions of the Security Council, the International Court of Justice, and one needs to put the parameters of this discussion. Is every country allowed to interpret in any way it suits fit the facts and the law? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, every country has its interpretation to the international law. This is how it is. And every country puts the fact the way it sees. This is how it is for every country. I understand what you're asking. Let me try and answer. First of all, occupation by itself, by the way, is not an illegal situation. Occupation can occur under certain conditions. It's supposed to be a temporary situation. And I remind you, because this is what people seem to forget, and even now, the last resolution of United Nations General Assembly is almost surreal because it goes against everything the international community agreed upon just before. What did the international community agreed upon? That Israel and the Palestinians are in a process of negotiation that started in the 90s with the Oslo Accords that set the parameters of how this negotiation will take place. The reason that the Palestinian Authority exists is because of negotiation with Israel. There was an agreement, there was a consensus in the international community, by the way, except for Hammas, that says the way to find peace between Israelis and Palestinians is through direct negotiation between the two sides. This is what it is. The last resolution by the United Nations General Assembly says, oh no, we throw this away. We are not interested anymore in direct negotiation. We don't care about any kind of security.
Which resolution are you referring to?
I forgot the number, but it was
the recent one?
Yes, it was I don't remember its number. It's General Assembly, but it just says an example. It says we don't care about Israel's security needs. We don't care about negotiation. No, you just need to leave wherever areas that you think you occupied. Now, first of all, from our point of view, this is not an occupation at all, because if anyone has any right to claim occupation, it should have been Jordan, because Jordan was the country that was ruling those territories. Jordan gave up on this. So the way we see it, these are disputed territories and not occupied territories. Just to speak about the legal terms. We still believe in negotiation. We still believe that we can sit down to the table with the Palestinians, and we still hope we can find the solution to this. We didn't change anything in the rules of this game. I understand. And one last thing. I know that there's a lot of criticism regarding Israeli settlements. The only thing I can say in this regard is this. Whenever there was a serious option to reach peace with our neighbors, be it Egypt, be it the Palestinians, whoever it was, we always find ways to solve those problems as well, including the evacuation of Israeli settlements.
Yes.
So things that seem to be problematic maybe be solved if we have a partner that we can work with and find peace.
Well, to be honest, Ambassador, the impression that I have is that Israel has taken a road, it's going its way, irrespective of what the other countries in the planet think or do. This is my impression. When this happened 1 year ago, everybody sympathized with Israel. I mean, the majority of the countries, at least the European unions and the West where we belong, they said it was a terrorist attack, which it was unacceptable, it was inhuman, it was a violation of the Israeli people's rights. And we all allied with the right of Israel to defend itself, the right of Israel to find the perpetrators and eliminate them and everything. But 12 months ahead, the situation has completely changed. Even the president of France the other day spoke critically about Israel, and he received a 2-minute declaration by your prime minister in a tone that makes makes me wonder whether you understand what is going on. Do you get the feeling that all the other countries are watching with very critical eye the way this thing is developing?
I will answer. First of all, we understand that we are under a lot of criticism. I'm not saying that all this criticism is misguided or wrong. I'm sure.
Or is made in bad faith.
This is what I'm not saying.
Yes.
But eventually, we do believe that what we are doing is A, crucial for our survival, B, not in violation of international law, and not in violation of the way that the international community is behaving. The fact that we don't agree on all those things doesn't mean that we don't accept the rules of the game.
But this is a recipe for disaster, Ambassador. If you reserve to yourself the right to decide what is in violation of the right of international law and what is not, whereas the appropriate bodies are the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, the U.S. General Assembly, then we move to anarchy. If every country says, I will decide, Russia says, I will invade Ukraine, and with my interpretation is according to international law. Turkey says, I'm in Cyprus, I did a mission to save the people, is according to international law. So this leads to international anarchy. This is my point.
I hear your point, but I tell you, look around you. What is the situation on the ground? Because the law eventually needs to serve the realities on the ground. The reality on the ground is that if we accept everything that the international community is saying, and by the way, it's a big question mark. We say all countries, it's not accurate, but let's say this is the situation.
Talking about the European Union.
If this leads to our suicide,
England.
If this leads to our suicide, because if let's say that we need to implement, which we don't have to, according to international law, the United Nations General Assembly resolutions are not binding. Just to remind you.
Yes, they are not binding, but they are an expression of the will of the international community.
Let's say, for the sake of this discussion, that we are willing to follow by the letter this resolution that was written by the Palestinians. Okay? So we need to withdraw completely out of the West Bank and take out all of our settlers. What happens then to us? What's our fate? I tell you what the thing is. The international community, it's very easy for her to raise its hand and say, yes, we're in favor or against, because it's a political game in the UN. You present it as if this is legal.
Yes.
Law. This is not just legal issue. This is totally political. So it's very easy to raise the hand, including against things that you yourself actually are doing, and say, it's okay, we give this to the Palestinians. But if we actually implement this can bring to our demise, to our death, to our community suicide. So do we suppose to follow this and just say, okay, I'm going to drop dead now because this is what the international community is telling me to do? I beg to differ.
Yes.
It's not that we are against the international community. It's not that we are against international law. On the contrary. But this is not a black and white thing. This is an issue of interpretation, of discussion.
It's not an issue.
It is indeed.
Ambassador, when you have
in international
callings by the UN General Assembly saying stop the war, stop killing people, stop killing children, when you have humanitarian crisis, when the United Nations has issued 100 reports so far, it's not a matter of interpretation.
Oh, indeed it is. You're presenting all of this as if this is neutral. This is objective. These are people.
The United Nations, does it have any reason?
Of course it does. This is what I'm telling you. This is
the United Nations,
political.
The General Secretary, Ambassador.
Oh, come on. We should now PNG'd by Israel because we don't think that he is objective anymore. The same person who was unable to say that Iran attacked us. This is the person that you claim is objective.
The treatment of the Secretary General is the same for every person that disagrees with Mr. Netanyahu.
No, this is not true.
And then a good example is President Macron. I remind you that when this started, President Macron visited, he was one of the first leaders to visit Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu. And now Netanyahu gave a 2-minute video condemning Macron because he spoke about the need of ceasefire.
No. This is not true again.
And he spoke about him in a very, not a good way. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. With great disregard about the leader of France.
Okay, let's start with the General Secretary, then we
Yes.
Secretary General, then go to the President of France, and then we go back to the issue of this objectiveness of the UN.
Yes.
First of all, if the Secretary General of the United Nations after a member of the UN was attacked by Iran, 181 missiles were fired at us. He's unable to say Iran attacked Israel. I don't think that is in any way objective or impartial. This is one. As for President Macron, what I can say is that what actually was the big problem is that he said that we should have an embargo, stop sending arms to Israel. For us, this is hurting our capability to defend ourselves. It's not because he's asking for a ceasefire. Asking for a ceasefire is not the reason that he would be. But one second, it doesn't turn the situation to say, oh, we are not speaking with France anymore, we're not speaking with Macron anymore. In diplomatic relations, this is part of the thing. Sometimes you make a decision, and sometimes you get criticism for your decision, and that's how life is. We are being criticized, we can also criticize others. And now for the United Nations, all those reports, all those committees, all those commissions, there's a whole process behind this which is completely political. The people that are being chosen to sit on those commissions, the way that they start their investigation, none of this is impartial, none of this is objective. People are selected because they are anti-Israeli, because the UN is not really objective as you like to portray it as it is. Having said all that, you, in your question, you are trying to create an image as if we are a pariah state, as if we refuse to accept the international community position, the international law. This is not the case. We have disagreements. We have discussions. We have things that we disagree with some of those things, but we are playing according to the rules of this game. We are doing what we are allowed to do. We are playing within, and we are not saying that the system is wrong. We are very much in favor of international law. We are a law-abiding country. This is how we see it. But there are differences of interpretation, and I think that every country is allowed to look at what is being decided and to compare it with reality and says, what does this mean for my life?
You know, here in Cyprus, we have a particular sensitivity about this issue. And whatever you told me is exactly what Turkey tells to us about the invasion. That's why I'm very, I'm trying to process this. On the one hand, I understand that Israel has to defend itself. I understand that what happened was horrible. I understand the dangers posed by people like Hammas and Hezbollah and the fanaticism. There is a religious thing that they have. I also know that they want to eradicate Israel and eliminate it from the map. I see all this. On the other hand, I cannot follow a rhetoric and practice by Israel that systematically ignores international law and the calls of the international community.
We will have to agree to disagree on this. I don't think that what we are doing is systematically opposing.
I mean, at least in the last year.
I beg to differ. I don't know a single Security Council resolution that calls for a binding ceasefire.
Because the United States will veto.
So you change now the rules. So only
no.
But this is part of the game. Why is this a situation? Because it's political. It's not. You keep on portraying international law.
Countries like France,
but you keep on portraying
the United Kingdom that are members of the Security Council. Are they also part of the international conspiracy against Israel?
I'm not saying conspiracy.
Well, this is what you told me.
I didn't say conspiracy.
Well, you didn't say it in so many words, but this is what you mean.
It's not a conspiracy. It's a political, deliberate effort.
But this is how the world functions.
And so let me get it straight. So when our enemies are functioning this way and using the UN for their needs, you say, but this is how it is. But when the United States said we're going to veto the Security Council, you said this is not okay because all the rest want it. So yourself in your claim,
no, it's accepted.
This is part of the game.
Yes, I understand.
The UN. One second. Let's finish the point.
Yes.
The UN is not an impartial, objective organization that everybody is just following the law. It's a political scene in which we are a small minority, and we need to fight the best we can. So we have one big help in this regard, which is the United States. I don't think we should disregard this. I think the United States is a very important player in the international arena. And therefore, if they are going to veto it, that means that there is no binding Security Council resolution that we are in any way are not implementing. Therefore, I think that you cannot come and say that we are disregarding international law. No.
Yes.
If it's non-binding, it's non-binding. If it's binding, it's binding. Can you show me when we are not following a binding resolution?
Look, it's not only the decisions of the Security Council. You have the UN, the General Assembly resolutions, and you have the will of the international community in general, I think. I mean, you don't take it strictly if it is binding or non-binding. You have the Secretary General who spoke, I don't know how many times. But let's move on a little bit.
One second. I need to answer this. I have to answer this one. The will of the international community, as you call it, is a very tricky thing because it changes with the years. So they want something now, maybe next year they want something different, but this is our lives, okay? If you go back to the 30s in Europe, the will of the national community was, we don't want to accept Jewish refugees living in Germany. It was their will. We had people who could not go anywhere, but this was the will, it was legal. Okay. Does this make it right? No, there was the will of the international community in the 70s calling Zionism racism. Yes. This was the will. But it's not the will anymore. So flagging the will of the national community, I would be more careful about this.
Moving to another subject, there have been reports, I don't know if you can confirm or deny them, that Nasrallah, one day prior to his killing, he agreed to a ceasefire. There have been reports in the international press. Are you aware of? I mean, the whole thing is that he agreed one day before and Israel went on and did the bombing and eliminated him. I don't know if it's true, and I don't know if it matters at the end of the day, but I just thought of asking you if you have any such information.
I don't know that he agreed, but I can say that if you look at the statements coming from Hezbollah all along, from October 8th, it was always the same. They always said, we will not stop firing on Israel as long as the war in Gaza continued. They linked themselves, Hezbollah linked itself to the war in Gaza. Therefore, I have no indication or no knowledge that they were saying, okay, we're willing to cease fire in Lebanon, disregard from Gaza. I don't think this was the case. There was no indication of something of this sort.
Okay, now I will ask you about the humanitarian aspect. As you know, there is a lot of discussion about that, and I want you to comment. First of all, the United Nations, I don't know if you will accept the numbers, talks about civilian casualties of 41,000 people and
Don't say the word civilian.
3,500 children. Okay,
yes.
41,000 souls were killed. Is that number true? Would you confirm this number?
I cannot confirm the number, but I would not make an effort to try to say, no,
would you doubt the figures given by the United Nations?
Because the figures given by the United Nations are the figures that they are taking from the ministry.
It's from UNICEF and Oxfam.
It's not
only from the ministry from Gaza.
But their information is taken from the Ministry of Health in Gaza, which is controlled by Hammas. But that they
Ambassador, there are people on the ground. It's not only Hammas there. There are people from the United Nations. I mean, so what is the number?
Let me give you
okay, how many people were killed in Gaza?
I will answer this. Let me give you an example. You said there are people on the ground. The people on the ground, when they're counting the number of aid coming into Gaza, UN, they're counting in a very specific way. For example, they didn't count anything coming from the maritime corridor. It was not in their list. Why? Because they didn't see it with themselves. So they didn't say we didn't see it and the numbers are different.
Ambassador, it's different when we talk about human lives.
I need to finish the sentence. Okay.
Just tell me the number. How many people were killed?
The answer is, I don't know, but I don't think it's important for our discussion. There's no doubt.
Ambassador, Israeli intelligence kills people via their pagers, and you don't know how many people were killed in Gaza.
You are confusing Lebanon and Gaza.
I'm talking about Israel is a state-of-the-art country. We all admire Israel. And about the way and the surgical operations it does, and you don't know how many people were killed in Gaza?
The answer is, I cannot give a number, but I don't think it's important.
Would you doubt the number of 40,000 people?
I doubt the number, but I don't think it's...
You say it's less than 40, it's 30.
Let me finish.
I don't believe you cannot give me a number.
I cannot give you a number, but if you let me finish the sentence, you find that I'm answering your question without giving you a number. I don't know. I doubt the number of 41,000, but I don't think it's important. Let's say it's 35. Let's say it's 34. Let's say it's, I don't know.
Why it's not important? Why
because I don't know the number.
Yes, but why you think it's not important?
Because what you are telling me eventually, you're not interested if it's 41 or 42 or 40. What you're telling me, correct me if I'm wrong, you are killing too many people. Too many people are dead, including too many civilians are dead, including too many children. Yes. This is what you are telling me. So the number is not really important to you or to me.
It's tremendously important, because the question of proportionality here and proportional response to something is very relevant.
We are going back to our previous discussion, and I don't want to repeat things we said before. Proportionality has nothing to do with the number of people dying on both sides of the conflict.
Yes, Ambassador, but
it's not proportional. You are taking let me finish this, please.
Yes.
You are taking a principle in international law and you are applying it on the wrong thing. It's not about how many people died that says proportionality. This is not the issue. And again, you can take historic example of this, of how many people died in the Second World War, which means what? That the Allies were wrong because they killed more Germans than Americans. This is not the issue.
What is the issue?
The issue is this. When you conduct a war and you are trying to kill the enemy, and the enemy embeds himself in civilian population, you need to take all efforts and all measures you can to try to bring down the number of casualties that are civilians and not fighters. We are doing this. We are doing this in a way that I don't think any other army in the world is doing, including giving very clear warnings to where we are going to attack, when, and asking people to leave. If you look at the numbers, let's take, for the sake of this discussion, the number you are giving, 40,000 people. 41,000 people. Our estimation is that half of them are Hamas terrorists. Not children, not women, not innocents, terrorists, which means roughly a ratio, I know it sounds horrible, of 1-to-1. For each terrorist is dying, we have a civilian which is dead. Horrible, horrible. I wish we could refrain from this. I really do wish we could not do it this way. But when you compare this to what others are doing in similar situations, it is much, much better than what happened in Mosul or in Afghanistan or anywhere else. So I feel that we're actually fighting a war in a very, very legal way, according to international law. It doesn't mean that I'm happy about people dying. I'm very unhappy. And this war can be over tomorrow. And this is the thing, you, not you personally, but many people come to us and say it's because of you, because of what Israel is doing, because of your attacks. Well, actually it's because Hamas. It's because Hamas decided to attack us instead of refraining or doing this. It's because Hamas decided to embed itself within the civilian population. It's because Hamas chooses on purpose to put its headquarters in schools, in hospitals, in places that he knows that are problematic. And if Hamas decides to stop fighting because he has no chance of winning, and him continuing fighting actually worsen the situation for his own people, this could end tomorrow.
Yes.
So I understand that you want to come to us, again, you, not you personally, but and say Israel should stop fighting, but we are not fighting to kill people. We are fighting to kill terrorists, and we are fighting to achieve the goals of this war, which will hopefully bring a new future also for the people of Gaza themselves. And looking at us and saying, oh, it's your... No. Have a look at what is Hamas doing. Have a look at what the people on the other side are doing and what are their goals, and reassess the situation.
I hear what you are saying, and I understand and I sympathize with many of the points you are making. My problem is this: with this logic, if what you said before, the task of Israel is to eliminate the military capability and the governmental capability of Hamas, with your logic, if this elimination entails killing all the Palestinians in Gaza, then that would be justifiable.
On the contrary.
Because this is where it all ends.
On the contrary.
There is no stop. There is no red flag for you.
On the contrary. It's just the opposite. What you said is just the opposite is the truth.
No, I mean, because this is where the logic results exactly to what I told you.
And I'm saying the opposite is true. Because,
why?
Because we are not fighting to kill each person not even each person, not just in Gaza, but each person in Hamas. This is not what we are trying to do. We are trying to make this distinction and try to hit those that are responsible for the situation. This is why we are trying to target what we are doing and not do it in a widespread way. So of course not. There's even logically what you're saying doesn't make any sense. Why? Why do we need to get? No, we need to get to enough to this critical mass of people that are governing Gaza, get rid of them, and they can decide to stop fighting tomorrow, and they will not be executed, and this will be the end of this. We are not looking into eliminating all Palestinians. It's ridiculous. That's the opposite of what we are doing. Look at what we are doing.
This is where it will end, Ambassador.
I'm saying the opposite is true.
Okay. I am reading from the UN reports from Oxfam and from the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, which has issued its latest report 3-4 days ago. And it says that 87% of school buildings in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed, jeopardizing around 500,000 students. There was destruction of infrastructure across Gaza, and 67% of the roads, of the buildings, and everything were destroyed. So,
yes, let's take this as facts. Okay, what is your conclusion out of this?
My conclusion is that you will not stop until you are certain that Hamas is out of the way, and for this to happen, the whole place has to go down.
So my conclusion is very different than yours. My conclusion is this. This means to me, that Hamas is placing its headquarters, its storage, its people in schools on purpose because he thinks that it's giving some kind of immunity. This is why this is targeted, not for any other reason. And my conclusion is that this can end once Hamas stops fighting the way it fights right now, because it fights in a way which is illegal. I mean, you talk a lot about what we are doing, but Hamas is the one that's fighting in an illegal way. We are trying in this impossible situation to do whatever we can according to international law. This is why we have all those legal advisors of the army sitting in the headquarters and giving the commanders the legal advice before they act. Is it legal? Is it not legal? Can you do it? Can you not do it? This is why we want people to get out of places where we are going to attack. Hamas took Gaza in 2007. It had 16 years. It built under all of Gaza, its tunnels, its headquarters. Instead of doing something for the benefit of the people, their goal was how we can hurt and damage Israel. We were brought into Gaza. We didn't want to go into Gaza. This was not our aim because we left Gaza. We were brought into it. Do you expect us to leave before we can clean it up in a way that we know that we are not threatened anymore? This is insane to ask this for us after we had to bury 1,200 people in one day that were not killed because a bomb dropped maybe in the wrong place. Those people came to our houses, looked into our women and children in the eyes, and shot them in cold blood. You know, you are a lawyer. The law knows what is the distinction between murder, killing, and manslaughtering. Same goes here. The fact that people die doesn't mean that they were murdered on the Palestinian side. Unfortunately, when you are using such kind of war, people might die not because of any purpose in this regard. This is totally different than what they did to us. There's this big difference. You speak about proportionality. Where is the proportionality in the intent? The intent of Hamas, the intent, the ideology.
There is no proportionality in the intent. The proportionality is related to the result.
No, that's not true. It's not true. It's not a result.
I mean,
of course not.
You react to a situation depending and proportional to what happened to you.
The proportionality is
it's a basic principle.
We have a jihadist enemy that wants all of us dead. This is the intent. This is the threat we need to eliminate. Hamas, and is not hiding this. Listen to them. Hamas says, we do not want to see we do not want to see Israel. No Israel for us. They don't talk about two-state solution, peace agreement, coexistence. What they say, no Israel. This is the threat we need to give a proportional reaction to. Yes. What is proportional to that would totally get you distracted? What is proportional for this?
proportional.
Maybe we should send people and just kill randomly 1,200 children and women in Palestine. This would be proportional then?
No, you should.
No, of course not.
Proportional means that you have to take all factors into account and respond in a proportional way. Proportional way means in relation to the effects.
To the threats. To the
not
threat.
Only to the threat.
Of course it is.
Not only to the threat. Here we had an incident that took place on October the 7th.
We did not have an incident.
An attack. Whatever you call
We had
it.
the first step of a bigger plan that the goal of it was the elimination of the state of Israel. They thought that what they are doing together with Hezbollah, together with from the West Bank, they'll be able to eliminate Israel.
So you are saying this was the initiation of a war against Israel?
Of course it was.
Wasn't a one-off incident.
It was not.
Attack.
If it was a one-off incident, why do they keep the hostages?
For bargaining purposes.
Why? Because it's not a one-off thing. For them, it's an internal war. You are looking. You're interviewing me. I'm the Israel ambassador. I understand this. But on the other side, remember who is the enemy. It's not two countries fighting, two democracies that have a fight over this. No. On the other side, there is a terror organization that its ideology is a jihadist, fundamentalist, extremist ideology that believes that all of the territory from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean is a waqf, is an Islam. One second. Let me finish the sentence.
The problem is that there are civilians in the equation. If it wasn't only the fighters and the jihadists and everything, nobody would have a problem. The issue here is that you have civilian population and children.
If only we could have,
Let me
fight
ask you
a sterile war without civilians.
To understand that
it's not our choice. It's not our choice.
Let me give you an example.
Choice.
Let's say you have a hospital with 300 people, 300 patients, and you know that below the hospital there are the headquarters of a Hammas faction.
It's not a theoretical thing. It's a practice. It happened.
Do you eliminate the hospital and everyone in it? What do you do?
You evacuate the hospital. You tell the patients and the staff, you need to move out of there. Here is a field hospital. Here, go to other hospitals.
If they don't, what happens? How were all these thousands of people killed in 1 year?
I fail to understand your question. What do you mean by if you don't?
I mean, weren't there any other measures by your military?
But you don't let me answer. You ask me, don't let me answer. Let me just answer the question.
Please.
You are a normal person. You are in a hospital because you are sick. They are telling you, mister, you need to leave because we are about to bombard the hospital. Here is the ambulance. Here is the other hospital. You need to go to the other hospital. Why would you say no to this? I want to understand the logic behind why. You know that there's going to be an attack on this hospital. You want to leave. You want to survive. Why would you say, no, I'm not going to move from here?
People are afraid. They don't think.
They're afraid. They are being told that this place is going to be bombarded because this is a headquarters of terrorists. We give you a chance to save your life. Why would you stay there to begin with?
Yes.
I don't understand this.
So all those that are stupid and stayed, it's okay to die, you say?
First of all, it's never okay.
I'm just trying to understand.
I'm trying to answer.
I'm trying to understand how you. It's weird for me, for a country with the capabilities. I repeat this: the military capabilities of Israel, that it couldn't contain all this. That's a question.
I don't understand the question. What is contain all this?
Contain. I mean, not create such a chaos and so many killings in Gaza. I mean, wasn't there a way to do it and be more show
Let me
more
reverse the question.
respect?
Tell me, what is the way?
For civilians? I don't know. I'm not a military person.
I'm not a military person as well.
I don't know.
But you're asking a question. If there was only a way that I could have been young and rich and healthy, if there's only this way, I would have loved to do it also. I want to be young and healthy and rich. If only there was a way. I don't know. I'm not a magician that I can make it happen. But if only, this is a question, I'm sorry to say, that is disconnected from reality. There is no such. If there was such a way, believe me, everybody would have liked to use this. If there was a sterile way to do this, why not doing this? Of course, we would like to do it. We are doing it in the best way that we believe is possible under the circumstances we are in.
To give you an example, I'm not a military person, but there have been many calls for ceasefire, and in the summer and before, you could grasp the opportunity, give some days for ceasefire so that the United Nations could come in, take people out, give some humanitarian help. I mean, look a little bit more humane in all this. Why didn't you do this?
Well, first of all, there were, in certain cases, there were humanitarian pauses, there was your hours and places. You are describing a situation as if it's complete chaos. This is not the case. All of the evacuation of the population was done in an orderly way, more or less, which means that we didn't bombard certain areas, we opened humanitarian corridors. So you are describing a situation which is not how it is on the ground. Having said all that, again, war is not sterile. Mistakes also happen. There are cases in which people unfortunately die, even though it wasn't supposed to happen at all. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. It happens because war is a mess. War is horrible. War, also on the, you keep on talking about our capabilities, but our capabilities eventually, young soldiers on the ground, afraid for their lives as well, they also sometimes make mistakes. I'm not happy about this, but again, these are not robots. Also on the other side, I truly, wholeheartedly believe that we are making a huge effort to do this in the best way we can, abiding by international law. I think this is the majority. This is the policy. We have no intentions of eliminating Palestinians in Gaza altogether. This is not what we are doing. And I still want to be hopeful about the future.
Ambassador, the New York Times has today an article. I don't know if you have seen it. I can send it to you. And it has videos from Gaza before and after the war. There is like a movie trip within Gaza. And what we see there, the situation today is amazing. It's very shocking.
Without seeing it, I believe you.
Yes. I mean, for us that are third parties in a way, and we are watching what happens, we are trying to understand where is the limit of this. And personally, I'm thinking this, Israel is a democratic country. It has free elections. It has a democratically elected government. It's a country with so many advances, I told you before. And it's like, I would say, a civilized country in our way of thinking, in the Western world. On the other hand, you have totalitarian regimes, Iran, dictatorships, religion, fanaticism, and everything. Shouldn't our side of the world behave in a way that would also give the example? I mean, if we behave this way, with this absolutism and with total disregard of what the international community says, where will all this end? And I wonder at the end of the day, are we talking about the same coin? Is it the same thing? Israel and Iran?
Okay, you raised many things. The thing is this, in your question, there are so many assumptions that I disagree with. That it's I'm answering that it's very hard to answer the question without looking at the assumptions. You're asking where's the limit? Where's the limit? Because the assumption there is that it's entirely up to us. Israel can start, can stop, can do whatever it wants, as if there is no one on the other side, as if this is not a conflict between. No, it's just Israel, and we can push the button, and we can stop and stop. This is not the situation. We have an enemy on the other side that is not interested in stopping, that wants to continue killing us. Therefore, the assumption, what is the limit, as if it's only our issue, I disagree. Secondly, you talk about the situation in Gaza, and again, there's an assumption there. It's an underlying. You don't say it out loud, saying, "Oh, Israelis, they're so brutal. They just destroyed the whole place for no reason at all. They just did it because I don't know what."
I didn't say this.
What did I say? I say you didn't say it. Yes. I said it's an underlying assumption.
Yeah.
But the situation in Gaza became what it was because of the way that Hamas designed the situation, because it took a whole neighborhood, all neighborhoods in plural, and he booby-trapped them because he thought that once the Israeli forces will go in, he will be able to blow us apart. So we were not willing to do this. We are not willing to commit suicide just so we'll have a pretty situation that the buildings are still standing. So we brought down the buildings because we don't want our people to get killed. So there is a context to things. There's reason behind this. This is not let's destroy for the sake of destruction because we can destroy. It's because of the way that this war, which is very hard, it's very hard for people that never experienced war, that never experienced how does the modern battlefield, which is not between two states, but between a country and a terror organization, how it operates. The terror organization is taking advantage of whatever it can. The population, the civilian facilities, whatever it can to try to create the lives of the democratic state's army as difficult as it can. And we are fighting a very difficult situation, which, with all due respect, I don't think people fully understand. Maybe it's our fault because we don't explain it well enough. No. I mean, the question, is Israel and Iran are the same? I don't even know how to start dealing with this question. Let's start with the fact of what is, not just what is the regime, which is the obvious one, what is the strategy? You're asking me about Israel's strategy. What is Iran's strategy? Because what Iran is doing, Iran is trying to undermine the situation in the entire Middle East. This is their goal. Is it Israel's goal? No. We would like to see peace in the region. We would like to have peace with Saudi Arabia, the same way we have with the Emiratis and with Bahrain. We have plenty of things we can cooperate on. You spoke about our capabilities. We can speak about energy. We can speak about communication. We can speak about health. We can speak about, this is what we want to do. But it's Iran that was building this ring of fire around us. So I don't even know where to start addressing a question. Are you this? Of course we are not the same. Our strategy is different. Our means are different. The way we behave is different. Our actions are different. The fact that we need to use force to survive in our neighborhood, otherwise we cannot survive because we are under constant attack from others. We are in this war not because we started it. Okay? We did not start this war. We were forced into it by others. And you want us to stop just because, we are tired here in the world, we are tired from you and you're fighting all the time.
No, I mean, this is not the spirit of my question.
But this is how it's being conveyed.
Yeah,
but we are willing to stop.
In Israel, you have a problem of perception to understand how the rest of us feel about this.
Maybe there's a problem in the world to understand the perception in Israel. We
possibly,
feel
yes,
that we are fighting for our survival.
I don't exclude that. Possibly we have also this issue. We cannot fully understand and appreciate the situation in Israel and why the need for this furious
by the way, many understand
reaction.
Also in Cyprus, there are many who do understand.
As I told you, I completely sympathized in the initial months when this happened. And even now, I understand the reasons. I understand. And I also, what you say about the underground tunnels and how difficult it is, etc. I understand this. What I cannot understand, and I don't share your interpretation about the violation of international law and the issue of proportionality. There has to be a limit to all this. When you have 41,000 people, even if half of them are Hammas, the other half are civilians, 3,500 children dead, 80% of the schools destroyed. You don't need to be very smart to understand that at the end of the day, nothing will be left.
I'm not questioning the intelligence of anyone. And I don't think that my intelligence should be questioned.
No, I mean, I am seeing where this goes.
No, you're looking at results and you are not looking at why it came to this situation. You refuse to look at it. You refuse to understand the nature of this war and how it's being conducted. You just, the number, it's 20,000, it's so much. Oh, it's horrible. They're probably doing something wrong. This is what I don't understand.
You have 500,000 refugees in Gaza itself. People that had to leave their houses. I mean,
yes.
You cannot underestimate how important all this is for a population of 2 million that was enclaved in a strip of land.
You will hear from me nothing but sympathy to the bad fortune of most of those people. It's a misfortune. This is the situation. But what is the alternative? That they would stay in their homes when they are being bombarded? What is that? You are portraying the fact that they were moved to a humanitarian area as if this is horrible. Well, it's only what is the other option. The other option was that they would stay in their homes when they are being bombarded. So I think between those two options, this is better. It doesn't make it good. If it was a choice between good and bad, much easier. But it's among the possibilities. It's better to be alive in the humanitarian area with the hope of a better future rather than stay in your home when it's being bombarded.
Okay. So I have two final issues. The one is about the International Criminal Court and the warrant that was issued against the Prime Minister.
No warrant was issued yet.
The application for the issuance, you are correct, for the issuance of the warrant. So is the ICC part of this conspiracy as well?
I never said anything about conspiracy. I reject the term.
Do you accept the legitimacy of the International Court or the International Criminal Court? I know you have not accepted the jurisdiction of the court.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'm not questioning whether ICC is a legitimate or illegitimate organization. This is not a question. There's no doubt that the ICC by itself is a legitimate organization, even though we are not part of this organization.
Yes.
We have plenty of issues, not with the existence of this institution. We have issues about the way that a prosecutor is handling the case. We have issues about why was the Palestinian Authority status was recognized by this court. We don't think this is the right thing to do. We have issues. I mean, I think it's fair that we have issues. And international courts are not the same as national courts. There's a big difference there about the whole thing.
Yes.
So, and international courts, and I'm not trying in any way to look down on this or disparage. No, but there's a lot more of politics in international court than there is in any kind of a national court. So people hear court and they think, oh, it's impartial. Well, it's more complicated than this. But again, this is not the issue. We have issues with the ICC. This is why we will never accept its jurisdiction. So, what was the question? Am I answering the question?
The question, yes. At the end of the day, you don't recognize any authority of the ICC. I understand.
Because we are not party to the ICC.
Yes. So the final question is: what is the future? Will you accept the two-state solution? Will you take steps to have peace, and when? When will this end?
I don't think I'm being paid enough to be able to
foresee the future.
They
should give you a raise.
Well, maybe they should. So it's an impossible question to answer. I cannot give any timeline. I don't know where or when or how. But I don't want to end this with a negative or a tone. I truly believe that in the long term, the process that we are seeing, I'll explain, since Israel was established in 1948, altogether, I think it's a positive process in which we become more and more accepted by our neighbors. Today, we have peace agreements with Egypt and with Jordan and the UAE and Bahrain, with Morocco, and we have better relations with some of our neighbors. The thing is that we are not alone operating in this area. We have, unfortunately, on the other hand, what I call the axis of evil, led by Iran, that their goals are very different. In the long run, I want to believe that the more moderate, the more reasonable group of countries will be the one that have the upper hand. And this can portray a future for the entire region, which is different. And you can see even today, you can see in Saudi Arabia, you can see in the Emirates, you can see people that understand better and better that their future can be a much better future than before. And part of this future is being able to cooperate also with Israel. I still believe in this future.
Yes.
I haven't lost faith. And I think that sometimes developments happen faster than we imagine. Look at the last 30 years. Look at how many things happened in those 30 years. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, yes.
The Oslo Accords and the Arab Spring and the Abraham Accords and also wars. Things are not static.
Yes, but you didn't answer about the two-state solution. Is this acceptable by Israel?
You know the answer to this. The answer to this is very simple. The current government of Israel does not consider this to be the solution to the problem. We are, as you said, you are a democratic country. We are planned to have elections in 2026. I don't know what would happen after this. You don't know if
this may change or may not.
It may change, it may not. It was, diplomats, Israeli diplomats in 1993, September 1993, went around and told everybody the PLO is a terrorist organization. We will never speak with them. Never speak with a terror organization. And then we signed the first Oslo Accord. And the next morning, Israeli diplomats had to go out and say, the PLO is our partner in peace. We have a very good process right now. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, but I want to be optimistic.
Okay, let's finish with a happy note.
By all means.
Did you are you aware of the memoirs of Boris Johnson, the ex-prime minister of
This is the happy note?
he alleges in his book
that he found
the Prime Minister Netanyahu bagged his bathroom bag in 2017 at the Foreign Office. Do you have a comment?
That I'm sure that Boris Johnson will sell many copies of his book.
Ambassador, thank you very much for your time and our discussion. It was very helpful. I think we tried to see a number of aspects of this, and I'm always happy to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
I hope next year we will be talking about peace.
I completely agree with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.